your brother vanished chasing a signal no one else could hear. And now, years later, the signal returns. In episodes 3 to 5 of the Enigma Club, secrets awaken, memories resurface, and the past becomes the only way forward. Are you ready to unlock the truth? Let us begin.
Not every question needs an immediate answer. Some echo until we're ready to listen. After Jack discovered his father's journal, the group fell silent. The hidden names, the repeated symbol, the torn out pages, everything pointed to something buried, older than any of them expected. But the next clue didn't come from an old diary or forgotten file. It came from something far more unexpected, something that had remained still for years, waiting to wake up. For the first time since the night her brother walked out to follow a signal and never returned, the compass he left behind began to move. The needle trembled, then locked, always pointing in the same direction, as if it were answering a call only Emily could hear. She remembered what he once told her. One day, if you really need me, it'll show you the way. Back then, it sounded like something you say to comfort a child, but now it felt different, real. Without hesitation, she followed the needle. Her steps led her to the gates of the old International Expo Park. Closed for over a decade, swallowed by vines, drenched in silence. And yet, the compass didn't falter. She took out her phone and typed one simple message. I found something. Bring Jack. By evening, they had all arrived. Ava climbed the fence first. Leo hesitated, then followed. Sophie studied everything. The ground, the walls, the rusted beams, like she was searching for a pattern. And Jack held his father's notebook tightly against his chest. The park was frozen in time. Abandoned rides, faded banners, echoes of lives that had moved on. At the far end, a building stood quiet, its lettering barely visible. Aurora, the future of humanity. On its wall, almost erased by time, was a familiar mark, a five-pointed star intertwined within a golden circle. Jack stepped forward and touched the metal, his voice barely above a whisper. I've seen this before, in my father's notebook. And then, a voice answered. A man stepped out from behind a rusted caravan, old, worn, and calm, a cap full of vintage pins, a vest stuffed with papers, eyes that hadn't forgotten. He said the symbol had been designed by Elias, back when Elias still believed he could change the world. Ava looked at him skeptical. How do you know all this? Zrenya, she asked. He didn't hesitate. His name was Thomas Whitmore. He had worked here as the sound and light technician, and he remembered everything. His gaze fell to the notebook Jack held. He stared for a moment, then smiled softly. That notebook, it belonged to Daniel Carter. I recognized the handwriting, the way he wrote numbers, the ink color, the dates in the corner. He never changed. Jack nodded. He's my father. Whitmore nodded back. Makes sense. He told them that Daniel and Elias had once worked side by side. Inseparable, at least in the beginning. But Daniel had seen the line, and Elias had crossed it. Sophie asked, what was Project Aurora exactly? Whitmore turned to face the building. This is where it all began, and this is where he lost himself. Inside, the dust thickened. Cables hung from the ceiling. Machines blinked with no purpose. And in a corner, a shelf with old magnetic tapes. Sophie found one. Its label faded, but still legible. Technical interview. Thomas Whitmore, 2004. He hesitated. You sure you want to see this? Jack answered, we have to. They turned it on. The tape flickered. And there he was, a younger Whitmore seated, his voice low but steady. He spoke of Elias, of the dream to map the human mind, to create energy from thought, to interface between brain and machine, and maybe to communicate with something beyond understanding. But something had changed. Elias became obsessed and started working alone, without permission, without limits. Emily stepped back. Elias, Jack whispered, the creator of Project Aurora, and the real name of Dr. Enigma. Nobody said a word. The past had caught up. The tape ended with one final line. If you're seeing this, it means he's returned. And that can only mean one thing. And just then, the building responded. The lights flickered. A deep hum rumbled beneath their feet. And at the top of the grand staircase, he appeared. Dr. Enigma, tall, still, draped in shadow, his mask catching the light, just enough to reflect the past in its surface. He didn't move. He didn't need to. His voice filled the room, deep, measured, unshakable. What you seek is closer than you think. But to understand the origin, you must go further back than you planned. He looked at Jack, then at Emily. The answers you need aren't in the future. They're in the past you tried to forget. He stepped forward and dropped something onto the floor. A small metal key with a familiar symbol etched into its surface. Then he turned and disappeared into the dark. They didn't speak. Not right away. Emily stepped forward, knelt, and picked up the key. He disappeared, but what he left behind was harder to face than answers. Silence and a key. Dust covered the floor. A pale beam of moonlight slipped through a cracked ceiling. Emily knelt and reached out. The metal key glowed faintly in front of her. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. After the encounter with Dr. Enigma, the group stood in silence. More than fear, they felt curiosity, a growing need to understand the meaning of the key he had left behind. Emily held the key carefully. Its edges were cold, but there was something about it familiar, too familiar. Emily, who had been silent until then, whispered, "When I was little, I saw my brother draw a symbol just like this, but he never told me what it meant." The symbol, a 5-pointed star, encased in a golden circle, had returned once more. First in Jack's father's notebook, then on the wall of the Aurora Pavilion, and now in this key. But the answers didn't come. Not that day. The next morning, just after sunrise, it was Sophie who took the first step. She boarded a bus heading for the edge of the city to visit someone she hadn't seen in a while, her grandmother, Eleanor, a retired astronomer, sharp mind, restless heart, and the only person Sophie trusted to make sense of what they'd found. They sat together surrounded by star charts, old books, and telescopes draped in cloth. Sophie said only one word, Aurora. Eleanor froze. Then she stood up slowly and walked to a cabinet, unlocking it with trembling hands. Inside, a sealed box holding an old microfilm reel. "Your grandfather worked on this before they shut the project down," she said. "They said it was too experimental, too dangerous. But he kept a copy in case someone ever came looking again." Sophie brought the microfilm to the school library around 10. Soon after, the whole group had gathered around the old projector. At first, the image was blurry, then it sharpened. Diagrams, frequencies, coordinates. And at the top of the screen, one line of text, Aurora Station, code 1994 May. Emily stepped closer. A list of names scrolled across the screen, until one made her stop breathing. "L. Reed, Signal Team." Her voice shook. "That's my brother, Lucas Reed. He really was here." In the bottom corner of one slide, the same symbol, the star, the circle. Jack muttered, "So this is what Enigma meant. Most of the answers are buried in the past." Sophie nodded. Maybe that's why our parents never talked about any of this. Later that morning, still in the library, the group analyzed every frame on Sophie's laptop. Leo spotted something unusual, a date, highlighted in red. It was in the 9th of March of 1995, he said. Ava compared the coordinates. They pointed to an old communication tower, deep in the woods, abandoned, or so they thought. Emily clenched the key. This isn't over. He left it for a reason. Jack closed his father's notebook. We follow the coordinates. By noon, guided by the map, they arrived at the location, a half-hidden entrance among the trees, concrete steps leading downward, and silence. Beneath the forest floor, in the forgotten foundations of Aurora Station, someone was waiting, flickering monitors, active signal channels, and then, on one of the old screens, an image appeared, grainy, faint, but unmistakable. It was Leo's aunt. She looked straight into the camera and said, "Hello, Emily." Maggie's image appeared on the screen like a reflection pulled out of time. "Hello, Emily," she said, and then nothing. The image dissolved into static, but the name she didn't say echoed in the silence. The name Lucas Reed wasn't left on the screen. It was left in Emily's mind, etched there, quiet, unshakable. Jack closed his father's notebook. Leo stared at the stairs, as if was listening for footsteps that hadn't happened yet. Sophie read the screen's lower line in silence. Partial authentication, access suspended, liminal chamber initializing. And just below, Stargate level -5. They descended. The corridor was damp, triangular. It felt older than everything else, as if Aurora had been built around something ancient, not over it, not beneath it, but around it. Soon their footsteps stopped echoing. The walls absorbed the sound. And then the door appeared. No handle, no keypad. Just a single carved symbol, a 5-pointed star, fracture in the middle. Beside it, a faded interface flickered to life. Ava activated it. A voice responded, neutral and mechanical.
Access denied. Validation protocol active. Please formulate your question.
Not a question. The question. Jack stepped forward. He held the key that Enigma had left. He tried inserting it into a narrow slot. Nothing. The panel responded.
Permission denied. Emotional key incompatible.
Emily touched the star. The door wasn't a door. It was a mirror. A figure appeared in the reflection. It was Maggie, younger, wearing the colors of the station, but said nothing. She raised one finger and pointed to the wall. A new word began forming on the screen. Sophie leaned closer. Formulation? The system is asking for a question. Just one. Why? Leo asked. The panel answered.
Because a wrong question seals all the others.
Jack froze. Emily stepped forward. Where is my brother? The voice replied.
Incomplete question. Intention absent.
Ava spoke. What are we failing to see?
Only when the question is true does the door respond.
Sophie spoke next. Not with certainty, but with truth. What am I blocking in myself? One point of the star lit up. A memory appeared. Emily's father. She remained silent. A conversation left unfinished. A forgotten gesture. Jack hesitated, then whispered, what if the answer is the group, not me? The star began to shine brighter. Leo stepped forward. No words, no hesitation. Not loudly, not slowly, but with certainty. He walked, and the door opened. Emily reached out, but it was too late. The light took him, and the door closed. The others stood still. No sound, no answer. Just one voice, the voice of the panel, speaking with the same coldness.
The right question does not open doors. It opens people.
Some doors open, but not all answers were found. Rewatch the clues, connect the symbols. Visit the Enigma Club on YouTube, where every episode hides more than it shows.